A very good morning to you. It's good to see you. A few minutes past 8. Of course, that tells you that it is time for your wow. So I hope you woke up well and of course ready to conquer the day. Welcome to the show. My name is Winnie Lubembe. So much to cover in this 1 hour. And of course, today we'll talk about healing from trauma. This is like one of the most difficult conversations to have because again, we almost all of us, go through some different forms of trauma. But of course, the big question is, do we ever 100% heal from trauma? And is it possible for us to heal? Yes, and be able to connect with others. So that is what we'll be focusing on the conversation today, because as we all know, childhood makes up the pillar we build our personality upon. It is our way of understanding the world around us, our relationships, feelings and thoughts. However, more often than not, we undervalue the relevance of our childhood experiences, underestimating the effect of childhood experiences and what or how the experiences that it can have on us when we become adults. So then how do we deal with trauma? First of all, what are the different types of forms of trauma, and how do we either cope or heal from trauma? So it's gonna be a wholesome conversation. You want to stick around, but if you want to contribute to the conversation one way or the other, either sharing maybe some of the traumas that you went through and some of the ways that you or what you took to make sure that you either cope or you heal from your trauma, will be here. But if you have any question as well in terms of then what do I do, who do I speak to, who do I see, how do I handle this, we have the perfect panel for you today. So NTV Kenya is how you can reach us on our socials at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, but tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie, and let's understand trauma. All right, so to help us with the conversation, I am joined by two people who make you, understand what trauma is all about. And of course, we have Judy Mzungu, who is a life coach. She was here last year, December, right? Yes. Right? Yes. We're actually doing like one of our last episodes for the conversation. Yes. Asante sana for making time for us.
Thank you.
I'm really tempted to say Happy New Year, but you know what? I mean, it's just okay. Let's just say it's good to see you. Karibu sana.
Asante.
And of course, we also have Asava Isaiah, who is a youth mentor as well, here to share his experience. And first of all, thank you for agreeing to come by today and also to speak to us on some of the experiences that you went through growing up and even now, how you're doing and how you were able to cope with the same. But Judy, let's just start with you. Trauma.
Yes.
This is something that sometimes, or a term that we use loosely,
yes,
sometimes,
yes.
Not understanding the magnitude of the same. So when we say trauma, can we just get to understand what exactly is trauma?
Okay. Trauma is any uncomfortable experience that destabilizes you emotionally, destabilizes you mentally, and causes you not to be able to function at optimum.
Right.
And that's why even when you say that we use it loosely, sometimes we can actually underestimate the effect that something has had on us, or an event that has had on us, simply because we think that trauma is too big a word.
Yes.
So it's important for us to understand that the moment something happened and you destabilized you emotionally, destabilized you mentally, and caused you not to be able to function at optimum,
yeah.
Yes, there is reason for you to stop and heal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes, I mean, do people always know that they've gone through a traumatic experience? And I'm asking this because there's some things that we consider inevitable, stroke normal. And normal,
yes.
I'm saying that very cautiously.
Yes.
Because things like, for example, death.
Yes.
It is inevitable,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And it affects people differently. There's some
yes.
people who are able to deal with the loss and sort of like move on, right? Not forget,
yes.
but just able to cope with that and still live optimally.
Yes.
But then again, there's some people who this really affects them and impacts them so much so that they're not able to move on.
Yes.
So, when it comes to understanding, how, between the inevitable and
yes.
yeah,
I think also actually for me, the person who knows that this happened is at a better place than someone who doesn't know that this happened and it actually affected me.
Okay.
And that happens for many of us, that actually you could be going through life something happened in your childhood, you have no idea that it impacted you and it impacted you negatively. So without knowing, you keep on attracting negative experiences throughout your life because you're suffering from that traumatic experience. It actually is impeding your growth, it's impeding your performance. You don't, and because you don't understand it, we're not able to see all of you.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Okay. And especially during like our really early stages of life where we're not able to like comprehend a lot of things.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we could understand that. So we'll come back to you to then to understand, so what does it look like? But first of all, what are the different forms of trauma and how do they manifest, either psychologically, even physically and emotionally as well? But for you, Isaiah, let's just go all the way back to your childhood, right? Take us back. How was life growing up?
Oh, thank you. Life growing up, I must say it wasn't easy. Having experienced a traumatic experience, and I came to realize that I have been through a traumatic experience at my adult stage.
I see.
My biological mom left me at 2. Of course, issues do happen. Maybe she didn't know better. There are issues that led her to make such a decision. So she left at the age of 2. I was really not conscious enough as an adult to even understand what's going on. I started therefore living with my grandmother. So grandmother took that role. She played mom with my dad. So from 2 all the way to 22, I lived with my grandmother. I lived with my dad without experiencing that love or that place of a mom. So that whole thing was traumatic for me, and there's a way it expressed itself as I grew. So yes.
I mean, I hear you, and just to pick from what you've said, I mean, at age 2, I'm trying to figure, because there's that bond that you establish with your parent, right? And especially in this case, your mom, since you were in the womb, you know, you bond with your parent up until, you know, you're born and up until age 2. So do you, I don't know, can you remember what that was like, or this is something that you were told later on when you were, you know, you were able to understand these things?
Well, I grew knowing that my grandmother is
your mom. Yeah.
Until I was around 12, then I realized I'm calling her mom, and even my dad calls her mom.
So it's like, what's happening here?
What's happening here? So after realizing, inquiring about it, they were kind of reluctant to let me know about the truth, but eventually they let me know the truth. And I insist it's important as a child grows, if such experiences happen, let them know the truth as early as possible. So I came in, I was told, this is not your mom, this is your grandmother. So I was told everything that unveiled as far as my dad is concerned. So he told me on his end. But remember, there are 2 parties here.
I mean,
you never get to know the truth until you listen to both parties. So yes.
What did that statement do to you?
Well, it wounded me.
This is not your mom. What were the initial thoughts?
It injured me. I was almost fighting them. How do you tell me my mother is not my mom?
I mean, I can imagine.
It injured me. It injured me a great deal, and it affected how I started viewing women. It affected how I started viewing mothers, and with how mothers are celebrated on social media in this time that we are social media. Mothers are celebrated everywhere on Mother's Day. Father's Day it's quite low, but when it comes to Mother's Day, everybody in school, no one like mother. Mother's love. So it really injured me realizing this is not my mom, and she is my grandmother.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure what you know went through your mind at that point. And Judy, sometimes we tend to trivialize things, right? And some might say, but at least you had your grandma, you know, you felt that. But like you said, trauma affects people differently. So in this case, in Isaiah's case, can we just talk about that experience, that this is someone that you've known as your mom all your life, and then only to realize, no, this is not your mother, and your mother left you. That you know, what can that do to a person?
At that point, it looks like rejection. You understand? So then from there on, he starts feeling like, okay, fine, in as much as there's a shift, and in as much as his grandmother will try to give him the love that that in her own way a mother would give, yet there's something within him now that begins to demand for something more that now he realizes she has no capacity to give. And because mothers are celebrated, there's something within him that will begin to feel like, if only I knew my mother, then so much more would have happened to me. Then a void now begins to grow within such a person.
Yeah. And again, so how then does that manifest? Because like he said, he started viewing women differently. He started viewing moms in general differently. What exactly happens to the brain that, you know, changes things? Because again, you grew up knowing this is my mom and everything is okay, you know, you received the love that you wanted at that time, but then again that statement is like, but then, so if my mom was here, what more could that be? How different would life be? So struggling and trying to, you know, comprehend all this.
And then you also realize that it happened to him at a pivotal point in life when he's just getting into teenagehood. He's also struggling with issues of identity. And maybe if we listen to his story, he might just be able to begin to tell us that at that point, something shifts, even in the way that, one, his sense of identity, and the way now he begins then to adjust in society. Because that which he thought was safe, that foundation has already begun to shift.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. All right. Okay. So Isaiah, then, viewed women differently, and could you tell us how?
Well, my perspective towards women changed, but I thank God again because my grandmother was there. So she kind of neutralized my view for women, but I must say it changed. So I will ask myself, as Jude is rightly saying, who leaves a child at 2 years old? Then who lives without even coming to know how this child is doing over all these years? Not asking anything from her, not asking anything, just wanting to know her and just wanting to have that mother's love. So it really shifted my perspective towards women. So I knew this is a whole lie. The whole thing you're calling a mother's love, the whole thing that is exalted on social media and everywhere, mother's love, mother's love. I knew this is a whole lie. So my view for women changed and I kind of hated them.
Oh man.
At some point I remember I will even meet some ladies, even some lady teachers. I'll meet some lady teachers and my heart will really not be there. It will only be there because she is my teacher. But anything further than that would really not sound good to me.
All right. And how then did that manifest? I mean, like you said, you at some point hated that. That's very strong, you know, at some point you hated them. And how did that manifest physically? Like, how did your life sort of like change from that statement that this is not your mom and all these questions that you had to ask yourself as far as what if my mom would be here, you know, how would life be and all those things? How did that manifest?
Well,
with your day-to-day interaction, you know, with other people.
Thank you again. So this whole thing came to manifest at my later age, after the death of my grandmother.
Oh no.
This lady who I knew to be mom, but she's now no longer in the picture. So I went into drugs to try seek comfort from that place, you know. So it affected me that way. I went into drugs and all sorts of drugs. I went to all sorts of drugs, try seek comfort from that place. That's how it manifested. It even manifested in how I would even treat other ladies, you know. Ladies were an object to me, you know. When I'm at that age, now I can talk to ladies. They were an object to me. It will only be one agenda in meeting them. And yes.
Yeah, that's tough, that's tough. Trying to do, and I can only imagine at that time, it must have felt good because you found comfort, you found solace, you found, you know, at that time. But of course, later on, you know, this impacted, like you're saying, even your interaction in your relationships as well, because you are not there. You were just there because, right? So, Judy.
Yes.
So the manifestations of this, because again, And we talked about this yesterday, where we said, you know, sometimes going into a relationship, we're always told, make sure that you get into a relationship whole. You need to be complete.
Yes, and meet a whole person.
Right, right. But at the same time, we all go through like different forms of trauma that affects us, again, differently, right? Yes. Some people are able to sort of like cope and able to again, live their life almost normally, you know, but there are others who completely cannot do that. So then how do we know what are some of these different forms of trauma and how do they manifest?
Okay. First and foremost is now, like in his case, childhood trauma, it will manifest in the sense of now, like for him, he was unable to attach.
Yep.
So he, in him seeing a woman as an object, he's saying, there's a part of me that wants you, but there's a part of me that still fears you.
I can't trust you.
I can't trust you. So because I can't trust you, I'm unwilling to attach to you.
Okay.
So it then affects his form of attachment to another human being. That's one effect of, of that trauma. The other way that trauma can affect you is, apart from trust, is where your own performance becomes hindered. Maybe if he can tell us, I don't know, about his performance in school as a result of what happened. Because then you'll realize that because of whatever has happened, your mental faculty now becomes impeded. You'll find that maybe someone was bright, all of a sudden, they're not performing as well. The other thing is that sometimes, that's for school, if sometimes someone is a worker, you realize that probably at some point they were performing very well at work, but then all of a sudden they're not able to function very well as far as work is concerned. And then now, what he's talking about, the substance abuse, is also as a result of him now trying to fill the void that is in his spirit. By trying now to catch something else to cover all this. So it affects you emotionally, it affects you mentally, it affects you spiritually, and then it affects your drive. When it affects your drive, now performance begins to go out. Now that's how trauma now affects us. At a physical level, we begin to realize that someone is not taking care of themselves. They are not taking care of themselves in terms of grooming. Maybe sometimes they become ill. You actually see now the physical manifestation by them now becoming ill. Maybe it will manifest as a mental illness. It will manifest as a physical illness, and all this as a result of your whole being, spirit, soul, and body now begins now to get affected as a result of that traumatic experience.
Absolutely. Yes. And Isaiah, let's just go back to that time, and of course that age, very, very critical age, you know, because you're struggling with self-identity, you know, and then all of a sudden you're told, no, this is not, you know, the person who you thought they are. Of course, there's so many questions that you might want to ask. So in school, like you said, you did not like the female teachers, you could not trust them as well. I'm curious about your peers as well. What was your interaction like, and even with your grandma at that time?
Well, with my grandma, I used to extend some grace kidogo. Why? She's there. Yeah. At least this one is there. But when it came to even my peers, it was work. It was work to relate with most ladies, and as I've told you, any lady I would look at, I would view as an object. I would package myself to pay back that which was done to me. So, you know, so this mom left me, so I would also want to make a certain lady feel the same way that I felt. So this whole thing changed my perspective to ladies. Yes.
And your performance in school?
Well, my performance in school, I can't say it was really injured, but I would have done better. I believe I would have done better if it were not the place of lacking this mother in my life. I'm sure I would have done better, because people in school being brought by their mothers in school, people in school visiting days with their mother who are around, people in school talking of how good their mothers is, of how lenient their mothers is, on the contrary, how stern their fathers is, their fathers are. So yes, with my peers, it affected greatly how I looked.
Yeah. All right. Yes. Of course, you had so many questions. You had to ask your dad a lot of questions in terms of what happened, why did she leave, and all those things. But what was your, you know, like, How did you, what were some of the feelings that you had towards your dad? Because again, I want to imagine as a child, you want to feel protected by both parties, right? But then one left. So did you feel some sort of way, and especially about your dad? Like, why did you let her leave? You know, all those things. I don't know how exactly you felt, but yeah.
Well, to my dad, thank you for reminding me that.
Yeah.
Before he came and allowing me talk to him about this issue, he really didn't give me that opportunity.
Okay.
And I'm sure he had reasons to them.
I mean,
we discussed later, and I realized this gentleman had reasons why he couldn't have let me know in details what really happened.
Yeah.
So I kind of hated him, coupling it with the fact that my grandmother is not here. So I'm expecting this from you, but you're not giving it to me.
Okay.
I'm expecting this love from you. I'm expecting A, B, C, and D, a lot of things from you, but you're not giving it to me. So I kinda became so repulsive to his wherever he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you see, majority of the times, a lot of people would say you would rather, what you don't know won't kill you, right?
Yes.
So again, we could understand why your dad and your grandma would not want to give you this information way earlier, because in our mind we think we're trying to protect you, we're trying to shield you from, you know, everything else that happened. But is that in itself, I can't say is that the right or the wrong approach, but again, what does that do to a person? We could totally understand why, the reasons why, but at the same time, he eventually found out, you know, and damaged him. Yeah.
I think maybe there would have been wisdom in letting him know in pieces as he grew up. Probably he was hit by this reality almost, you know, it all came in at once. And again, like I'm saying, it happened when he was just entering into his teenagehood, when he's trying to fight with the sense of identity. Maybe it would have been better if the information had been unpacked in a wise way, so that by the time now he's entering into that stage, then maybe he would not have really have struggled with the issue of identity as much. And then again, also, it's the issue of also trying to work with him through it. I think everyone just expected him to have adjusted. We have told you, so no one actually probably sat down to think that how has this affected this gentleman, and how has it impacted him, and how is he responding to it, how is he dealing with it. I think he was left to like deal with it on his own.
I mean, at least you have your grandma to take care of you. You can be grateful.
Yes,
with
yes.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So again, getting this kind of information, and even like this other forms of trauma, like we talked about, abuse and death and accidents sometimes, or even again, different forms, right? Of things that happened to us when we were young, or even growing up, or even in our adulthood, right? That sometimes leaves us very destabilized and don't know what to do. Are there like stages that then we go through, and especially when it comes to dealing with that event at that very moment?
Okay, usually the natural thing would be now, like for him, he didn't deal with the issue. He went into something to try to cover his void. But then over time, I think it would be interesting to understand how then was he able to overcome. That would be able to help us to give pointers to other people on how you can also be able to overcome. But really the first thing is also just to be able to acknowledge what happened. Because usually for most people, when something happens, you try to cover it. I don't know whether it's an African thing. We try to cover everything and make it look good.
Just human being.
Is it
thing.
human?
We're trying to serve, like the brain trying to protect us. Like, no, first of all, this is not true.
It didn't happen.
It did not happen. I think so.
So just trying to, I think also we have this thing of perfection. We want to present a perfect family, we want to present a perfect life, and that puts a lot of pressure on us. So the first thing is just to be able to acknowledge this thing happened, and once you're able to acknowledge it and face up to your emotions, not minimize the emotion, face up to the emotion. Now, in substance abuse, what he was trying to do is that he was trying to minimize the effect or the hollowness or the emptiness that he was feeling inside. You get it? So being able to acknowledge, secondly, being able to accept and not minimize the pain, like accept and experience, allow yourself to experience the pain of everything, allow yourself to understand that this is how I feel, acknowledge the emotion that comes with the experience.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay, but is it easy to get that to that level, first of all, of acknowledging or acknowledgement and acceptance, which is like the most difficult place to get to, because first we want to deny, be like, no, that does not happen, it is not true, I am dreaming, I will wake up and everything is going to be okay and all those things, and then realize, no, it's actually, you know, a reality. It's
actually, yes. Actually, it gets a bit complicated, because the thing about it is, maybe, you know, maybe if we listen to a Sava's story, we'll get to understand that there was a build-up that happened over time. What then happens is, because the root of the problem actually started in his childhood, but then it will continue to manifest as he continues to encounter other situations and circumstances in life. So what then happens is that unless you deal with that root of the problem, you will continue dealing with the other issues that rise up, and because that root has not been dealt with, that person is still prone to keep on reacting the same way if something else comes up.
It's like
you get it, and that's where now the point of guided help now becomes important, because guided help helps you to not only deal with whatever it is that is bothering you now, but to go back to the root of whatever it is that is causing you to react in this way to this particular situation. So guided help then becomes important.
Absolutely. All right, and of course we'll come to that you know, during our second part, because I'm just curious, Isaiah, for you. So do you try find her and ask her some of these questions that you had?
Well, I do try.
Okay.
I tried my level best, having only the name of the lady, my mom, of course. So I only had her name. So I will try in social media, look for her in social media. I went all the way to where we used to live when I was at that age. So I'll try inquire from friends. Do you know of person so and so? Because the locality, people in that location knew that this is the condition of this gentleman, this is how he grew, with his dad alone, with his grandmother. So I went to that level of asking them. At some point, it even became chaotic between me and my dad.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because I will try ask immediately, more so immediately after the death of my grandmother. And it's when
did she pass on? At what age were you when she passed on?
I was around 22 years old. Around
10 years after you were given that information.
Exactly. All right. So at that time I'm asking, where is my grandmother? Or where is my mom? Who is she? I just want to know her, nothing more. Just want to know her. But he had reasons why he was hiding me from it. So it greatly affected my relationship with this gentleman who happened to be my dad. So I went all the way to my home where we used to live at that age. Tried finding her, I couldn't. So my dad heard of stories that this gentleman has been around. He's looking for
questions,
asking such questions, and you're the one who's supposed to be answering him. So it kind of tarnished his name. Yeah, it kind of tarnished his name. Later on, I would look for him on the social spaces, everywhere, but I couldn't find her. So that is the extent that it sent me in searching for her. And as you asked earlier, it affected my academics later in high school. Later in high school, after the death of my grandmother, going into drugs, it greatly affected my academics. I did my Form 4, my KCSE examinations. I managed a C constant, and I was not a C constant material. Right from my entry behavior in class 8, in primary school. Managed a C constant, going into drugs, even my relationship with people around me greatly affected it. So later on, it's when I came to go back to school.
How about we take a break on that note, because it's a lot. And then when we come back, of course, then we'd want to understand. So fine, having gone through all these emotions, right, and trying to seek solace and not finding it and treating people differently because, you know, of the pain that you're feeling, and you're trying to, because at some point you said you wanted to revenge so that this other party feels what you felt, you know, when you were left. So how were you able to, you know, do like a turnaround? Do you seek counseling? What exactly happened? Did you at some point forgive your parents, your grandma, you know, your mom, your dad as well? And how are you right now, right? And of course, Judy, for you, would want to understand trauma and relationships, because again, like we said, we asked this question. Is it possible for people who are broken to first of all heal and, you know, connect with the other people? So of course, all that is coming up after the break. Stay with us. This is Your World.
Why do we do it? Hide, cover up, tone down? Choose boldness. Celebrate the skin you're in and dress with confidence with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion. The triple layered care of deep moisture serum, precious cocoa butter and vitamin E enriches your skin for 48 hours. It's time to show off your best skin. Wear your skin with pride every time with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion.
Candace, what's that?
I brought you a small bonus.
Bonus for what?
You got us 299 family dinners, 64 kisses on the cheek, 12 road trips to see grandma, 42 jokes from daddy, 49 laughs from mommy.
In over 60 years of dealing with numbers, we've learned that the numbers that matter the most to you are the ones that matter the most to us. NCBA Bank. Go for it.
I'm in Kenya's North Rift region of Uasin Gishu County, which is regarded as Kenya's food basket. Many farmers here know little about the science cited as genetically modified organism, but are concerned about what impact rolling out the science could have on food production.
In just about 40 years' time, the city of Dodoma has changed from being just a small town in the middle of nowhere to becoming Tanzania's capital. But how has this change affected the value and demand for land and housing?
This used to be an unusable swampland, but these women have turned all that around. They converted 25 acres of inland valley swamp to a thriving farmland. They primarily grow rice, vegetables and legumes. It's labor intensive.
Grow your biashara by accessing loans, investment options, convenient banking, network opportunities, and so much more. Njoo tukujenge. Visit any one of our 93 branches countrywide. Family Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Johannesburg is a very big city.
He's a financial consultant, an author, writer, and renowned publisher whose publications have been bestsellers in the market.
I always had that hunger to be in that publishing space.
Yes, on Daring Abroad this week, Rotok Chesaina shares his 22-year journey in South Africa.
You can make money from writing books.
Also on the show, how Kenyans in the diaspora are investing back home through tailor-made opportunities by Kimisitu Sacco, and what it means for the country.
We are present in 56 countries of the world, so that means we're able to serve our members all over the world.
One thing I like about Kimisitu Sacco is the staff. When I was in China, I could still communicate with them and they would get back.
To protect our family from germs that cause illness when it's cold, we use Dettol soap.
Dettol soap with germ defense gives you protection. When it's cold, germs are transferred in different ways, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
Claiming your assets is easy. Simply visit UFAA website www.ufaa.go.ke or dial *361# or visit Huduma Center near you.
All right, welcome back. Glad to still with us. The show is Your World, and of course, it's all about healing from trauma. And of course, we're getting to understand the different forms of trauma and how that impacts our lives, whether as children or as adults, and how we're able to cope with the same and even heal. Because the biggest, or the most important thing is to heal. But then again, there's this question: do you ever 100% heal, right, from trauma and able to even connect with others? And of course, we also want to hear from you, Isaiah, because it's intense. You went through all these moments of anger, revenge, and bitterness, and all those things combined. Tried to find solace in other things, but so how are you doing now? How were you able to cope with the same? He said you had to heal, even for you to just first of all be comfortable to talk about it and even talk and share with other people. And of course on Twitter we can see this is it Mebur or Mebar? Hey, Sunday, people are very particular with their names, right? Says it's good to see us have quite a story. Our brother has an inspiration to many. Seeing him grow to higher standards shows trauma has no power over us. I like that. All right. And then there's someone on Facebook who says SK Yegon says I am learning. All right, so let's just start with you first of all, Isaiah. So went through this moment. Of course you were affected in different ways, and even academics as well. You joined your peers in campus a little bit late, right? But other than that, let's just focus a little bit on relationships and how you're able to interact, excuse me, for example, with women, because like you said, growing up, first of all, you felt a lot of hate and anger and, revenge towards women. Did you ever at some point just tried a serious relationship? Because like you said, I just wanted to use them because, I had an agenda, use them and then leave them so that they feel what I felt when I was left. But at some point, did you maybe ever try to connect with someone, on a serious level?
Wow, thank you. So over this time, and as Jude is rightly saying, for us to connect with people, remember, as we connect with people around us, it's the place where emotions sit, the soul. We use the soul to connect with people. We have to give. If it's love, we have to give. All these things that emanate from,
and even allow ourselves to receive. Because sometimes someone might give you, but you have this wall that you do not want to receive the same love.
It becomes a challenge to now give out because you really can't give what you don't have. Because this soul is fractured in a way, So my trying of a serious relationship, I never tried a serious relationship. Funny enough, I never tried a serious relationship until I got healed. I remember this time, and not yet healed. So this time I get a lady who is so apart as far as age is concerned. We are so apart in age. She's quite bigger than me. So I meet this lady. She assists me in a way. So after assisting me in a way, she's so kind to me, she's so good to me. Well, do you know, I almost started calling this lady. I almost broke out to this lady, and it's the first time I'm meeting her. It's the first time I'm having a conversation with her. I almost broke out to her and let her know, I want you to be my mom. So if this lady could have been aware that I'm going through such a thing, manipulation can come in so easily.
I mean, it's true.
She can manipulate me in any way she can. She can come and masquerade now as a mother. She can come and try feeling that which I'm looking for. So my relationships, I never tried a serious relationship until I came to healing. When I tried a serious relationship, I saw fruits. Yes.
Okay. I want to understand what then did you, what steps did you take, to heal? And first of all, at what point did you, realize, what? No, I want a totally different life from what I am living now. At what point was that?
Well, that was 2018, early 2018. It's when I began to realize as ever you have an issue, there's an issue with that you have to deal with, or else it's going to affect everything around you, because for the better part we have people relating to you, whether at work, whether in school, in all areas we have people that we're relating to. So in 2018 I realized this thing is going to be of effect and negatively to me. And it was in church, funny enough, it was in church I met people who walked with me in church, and in doing so I saw light. Yes.
How long did that take? Because you see, it's a long-term thing, right? From when you were 2 all the way up, and like basically your whole life, right? It's something that you had to struggle with. But how long did it take for you to get to a point where you say, you know what, I'm actually okay?
Well, it took a while.
Yeah.
It took a journey. Healing is a journey. It's not a pill you take. It's a thing you constantly let yourself know. It's something that you constantly and consistently come to aware of that you've healed. So it took a while. It was not instantly. It took a while. People coming in and people being so vulnerable and letting me know, Asaba, you're not the only one who is going through such and such an experience. There are people who have gone through such an experience, and even sharing their own life experiences. So it took a while. It was not.
All right. And Judy, I want you to come in, but of course I still have so many questions for you. Were you able to forgive your parents and your grandma as well? Were you able to forgive yourself as well? Because sometimes it's like, yeah, I'll forgive others, but then we don't really focus on self as well. And just dealing with that. And now, like, are you able to say you are 100% healed, that you have no trust issues, you know, you have enough love to give and also allow yourself to receive? You know, are you 100% okay? Basically, that is what I want to know. But Judy, let's come in here.
Yes.
Because like we said again, people go through different forms of trauma. We're all affected differently. And then we come together into a relationship because we want to establish something. And we are expected to be whole, be able to love 100%, be able to trust your partner 100%, regardless of, you know, our own issues and our own traumas and, you know, our own whatever it is that we go through. How much is that, and especially when it comes to relationships and working on ourselves, how much of an impact can this have in a relationship?
Actually, as a result of any trauma that you have gone through in the past, just like Asava said, what happens is that your emotions are affected. So you're unable to really connect with another person. You need to understand that for you to have a holistic relationship, you must be able to connect with that other person physically, emotionally, mentally, in terms of the will, and also spiritually. It has to be a total, truthfully speaking, it takes a it takes a while for you to achieve that kind of oneness. But what is important is for you people to have an emotional, intellectual, and the connection of the will. Now, when you're suffering trauma, or you're suffering from a traumatic experience, what then happens is your capacity to be able to be vulnerable enough to connect with another person is taken out. And that's where now healing becomes important. Unless you're healed, you cannot connect with another person because you don't trust them. Maybe sometimes you have validation, you have issues of self-esteem. So you desire, you're too clingy, you desire too much validation from the other person. You almost turn the other person into a god with a small g, because you're expecting them to come and fill the gaps that actually sometimes only God can fill, and you're expecting another person, because of that thing that was taken away from you, you expect someone else to come and fill it. So those are the challenges that come with connecting with someone who is not healed. But does that mean that people cannot connect? Because the truth is, Winnie, we all are meeting here, the truth is all of us are broken.
That's true.
But the thing
like
about
a bunch of broken people
I tell you,
around.
But if you can, for example, if as you're walking into a relationship, as you begin to then develop confidence and trust with this person, and know that, as an example, you want to take it a notch higher and make this a life partner, or you're already within the marriage, it's important for you to begin to open up and speak about whatever happened. That
that part. I am very sure you've had a lot of people come to you and tell you, listen, I trusted this person and I shared with them what I went through, and they used it against me. So getting to that level of, I can fully trust you, I can be vulnerable with you, and you will not use this information that is very, very vulnerable to me. You might not use it against me. That part of trusting this person completely sometimes is like, yeah.
So you see, when you're healed, you're not trading information. I don't know whether that makes sense.
True.
To you.
Yes.
You're not
yes,
trading
yes.
information.
Yeah.
You're simply opening up because this is who you are. You get it?
Yeah.
So then, even as you heal, what then happens is that you begin to see the gaps in the other person and you can also help them. So what happens in a good relationship, in a healthy relationship, because all of us are broken, carrying things from our past, is where I know that this is the area I'm dealing with. You know that I'm also dealing with this. As I deal with it, I'm also helping you to deal with whatever. So that we both heal within the context of our marriage. And even as we heal within the context of our marriage, then it becomes easier for us then to achieve the oneness that all of us are looking for.
100%. Okay.
Yes.
So the biggest question is, what exactly is healing? What does healing look like? And I know it varies from person to person.
Yes.
Again, the time again
Yes.
varies.
Yes.
But yeah, what does it look like when we say a person is healed? Yeah.
Okay. You can know that a person is healed, like when Asava said that I was willing now to talk about it. Yeah. They're no longer running away from the pain.
Okay.
That's a good indicator.
Right.
The second indicator that you're healing is that you begin to have the little joys of life again. Why? Because you're able to tap into that child that many of us run away from. You're able to tap into the child and feel the joy of a child, feel the love of a child once again, is where now you begin to blossom from the inside. That is a sign that you're healing. The other sign that you're healing is that you're able to dream again, because emotional wounds have a way of taking away our capacity, our mental capacity to be able to visualize our future. So many of us actually, because of the wounds we are carrying, we wake up in the morning, go to work and go back home in the evening, but we are not able to actually dream. We're not actually able to see the fullness of everything that we have within us being able to come out again. So the capacity to dream, and then your performance.
Yeah.
Once you see that your performance is beginning to change because something is, your intellectual capacity is kicking in, your creative faculty is kicking in. That to you is a good report card to show you that you know what, you're healing. And the best report card is the way you're attracting people.
I see that because again, like we said, we cannot live in silos, right?
Yes,
at the end of the day, we have to interact with people and all those things. So how we interact, again,
how you interact and somehow even how people respond to you, because people are responding to you on the basis of what it is that is you're exuding from the inside.
The energies that I mean, look at that. Okay. Asava, so were you able to first of all forgive yourself and forgive your parents and you know, just deal with that, first of all, that part of your life before we even now start talking? Were you able to trust people and get into a relationship? Were you able to deal with this part of your life, first of all?
Yes, absolutely. After healing, you come and realize, you look at this person who, the offender, this person who offended you, and you realize maybe they didn't know better. Maybe circumstances led them to that. Maybe if it were you who was in the same situation, imagine my mom was in class 8 at the time of giving birth to me.
Oh, wow.
But I was not told that. So as I grew, I had a lot of bitterness. But again, when I came to realize, this lady was in class 8. This lady was 16 years.
She was young.
She was so young. So realizing that if it were you who was in the same situation, maybe you will have reacted the same way or even worse.
That's true.
You know. So after realizing that, you are able to forgive this other person. And forgiving yourself, you'll have to. After forgiving this person, you'll have to forgive yourself so that your life progresses. Because funny enough, no one, the world is not, everybody is not looking at you and wondering, hey, this guy was left with the 2 year mothers. They may appear there.
They might not understand even,
They not even understand. They'll be there so empathetic and for a while, temporarily, you know, but your life is keeping on doing what? Deteriorating or stagnating at one place. So you simply have to forgive yourself. I came to that place, forgiving myself and dusting up and looking forward.
What was that conversation like with your dad? Because at this point, your grandma had died, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because like you said, she died when you were 22. So what was that conversation like with your dad, given the strained relationship?
Well, in fact, even before my relationship with my dad, my grandmother used to tell me that I'll take you to this lady. I'll take you. It was a promise she had kept. It's only that we were quite a distance from where she thought she could have been. So my relationship, I mean, that question to my dad, that season, that question asking my dad how this and this happened, it really, in fact, he couldn't believe it, that after he has struggled all this while, nurturing me all this while, I can face him to ask him such a question. Why? Because
like, how dare you?
Exactly, because around him there are people who had almost similar experiences, and a good number. Single parenting, a good number of us go through such. So he really didn't, he will give me examples of people around his life who are journeying quite well, who are doing quite well. And as Judy was saying, because we are trying to paint a very beautiful picture to the world outside, they're yet broken from the inside. It's another reason why he really asked me to tone down about that issue.
Yeah. Yes. All right. But I mean, it's a conversation that you had to have.
Exactly.
And get to that point and say, I forgive you.
There's a time he came. I don't know. I'm sure maybe God came through. But there's a time I even didn't ask him. He called me and we talked about it.
Wasn't that liberating?
It was so liberating.
It was, yeah.
That night I didn't sleep the whole of that night.
Yeah.
It was a whole different night.
I can imagine. Yes. I can only imagine. All right. And now, are you able to, first of all, did your view change about us women?
Of course, it changed completely.
Were you able to trust? Yeah. Were you able to trust women again?
That's why I'm here.
Get into, because now you are in a stable relationship, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So are there like specific people that you trust more than others, or you okay?
I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
And I trust everybody. Even giving this information,
I'm
thinking you might go run with it and start maybe backbiting.
Manipulate.
It's inconsequential.
Yeah. It's like that's not a me issue.
It's not a me issue. It's your own issue.
I like that. All right, and Judy, you literally have 2 minutes to close the conversation. Please speak to the people. Please speak to, again, people in relationship or even not in relationships, because again, it's like trying to find yourself, trying to heal from, your traumas and all those things. And even those ones who are either in relationships or married and struggling to figure out how do we move on, how do we deal with our issues so that, we're able to fully connect and be there for one another, and being empathetic, with our own traumas and all those things. What would you say?
Okay. First, I would like to say that if, for example, you haven't gotten into a relationship yet, it's important for you to take your inner journey and try to retrace exactly who you are, because having a sense of identity is going to be very, very important in terms of who you allow into your life. And that's very, very key. For those who are already in marriages, for those who are already in steady relationships, does it mean that because your spouse looks broken or because you are broken, you don't have a chance? No. It means that if you can take your inner journey yourself and understand that you attracted this spouse, there was something about you that was so broken that you attracted another broken person. Then now you can extend grace to this person and now see what has been their journey, how far have they come, and together work through it, even as you work on yourself, because we are all on a journey of healing. So that now you work together, and the most important thing really that maybe we don't talk about enough is that marriage is supposed to bring us into the place of oneness. And that oneness comes by the reason of healing, so that then we are able to truly connect at an emotional level. And at a mental level as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. All right. And maybe someone is watching us and thinking, so then who do I talk to? Where do I go, from here? And first of all, just that idea of talking to someone, it's very scary. It's like, where do I start? Because I'm not able to confront it myself. How am I, able to even sit down with someone and talk about, my experience? Because I can imagine that was difficult for you too, right? To just sit and talk. And first of all, it must have been a bit difficult. As I want to say something, I was like, no, just think for a sec. But so how do you start that journey towards healing? Very quickly before Jackso, how do you start the journey? Where do you start? Who do you talk to?
Okay, let me tell you, first and foremost, there are resources all around us. Okay. The truth is, there are churches. I want to believe these days churches are also, in terms of not looking at the spiritual, they're also beginning to look at the psychological aspect of these things. Yeah. So if you can find a pastor, if you can find a counselor, if you can speak to a trusted friend, someone with expertise, don't go to have a pity party, because that's going to drown you further. Yeah. You know, so those are the resources that God has put around you, or that are around you, that you can reach out to and just seek help.
Just seek help.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right, Isaiah, to those people who are watching you and thinking, hey, must say when I'm strong, you come now, you know, talk to the people very quickly in terms of, you know, this journey towards healing and living a wholesome life.
It's possible to heal, and you're not alone in this journey. Yeah. And there is a fallacy outside here that men are emotionally strong, you know. But it's wrong. It's not true. Men are emotionally weak because they really can't show those emotions. So it now says they're weak. So if it's a gentleman, seek out help, because it's important we know how to deal with these issues, because not even for ourselves, but even for those around us. What if such a thing happens to someone who is so close to you? So it's important that we know how to handle this, seek out help, because how we process pain is important. There are people who have begun foundations and even programs that identify with what they've gone through, you know, and there are people who have gone into drugs and engaging in other victims because of what they've gone through. So the individual really has to decide.
Absolutely.
And it's possible.
It's possible. I like that. One word to those people who are like, I've gone through worse. I'm sure we've had a lot of those things. It's like, me, I've seen worse. What do you say to those people? One word.
The most important thing is not going through it, but rising above it and becoming the best version of yourself.
Look at that. And that is where we close the show. Thank you very much, really, for coming by today. Judith Zungu, life coach, as well as Osava Isaiah, youth mentor. Thank you very much. Such a wholesome conversation we had today. Of course, the ball is in our court. Like we said, we all go through issues, you know, here and there. There's some people who are able to cope with that, and there's some people who, again, might need help with the same. But above and beyond, let's just try and seek help. It is important. You don't have to be sick for you to go to a hospital. You can just go and get, you know, checked and see if everything is okay. Someone here says very quickly on Twitter, this is 22 hours, babe. Says, me too, just real. A lot that's happening because I lacked growing up. I hear you, all right? And someone else says it's totally wrong for a parent to neglect his or her child, whichever the circumstances, even the law prohibits. But again, like we're saying, let's approach these things with empathy, because again, you don't know the circumstances. Try and approach things with empathy, all right? So we have to end it here. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Have yourselves a lovely day ahead. I'll see you next week on Monday, same time, same place. But for now, enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and remember, it is okay to not be okay, and seek help. Goodbye.